Hi folks, Dave, the Honest Audiophile. This is the Kiwi Ears Crinacle Singolo, and these are my Honest Audiophile impressions. I want to thank Linsoul Audio for providing the Kiwi Ears Crinacle Singolo for a review. Greatly appreciate it. Linsoul Audio, you rock. Alright, so the Kiwi Ears Crinacle Singolo. This will set you back $80 from your bank account. It is a collaboration between Kiwi Ears and Crinacle. And it uses a 11mm dynamic driver and also has what is called CARS, or the Kiwi Acoustic Resonance System. If you want to know more regarding that, please check out the link that's flashing on the screen or check out the link down below. And you can learn all kinds of information regarding Crinacle's tuning for the Singolo, and also more information regarding CARS, or the Kiwi Acoustic Resonance System. The Singolo has 32 ohms of impedance, 108 decibels of sensitivity, and a frequency response range of 20 Hz to 20 kHz. The Singolo comes in a pretty standard basic box for Kiwi Ears. You're going to get a picture here on the front of the Singolo, a little bit of branding. On the back side, you're going to get a little bit more information. On one side, you have some specs. Nothing too special on the inside. In fact, it's a little bit lackluster when it comes to accessories. There's no carrying case, and you get two types of silicone tips. You get these clear, a little bit shallow, wide bore tips that are silicone, and then you get black ones also that are wide bore, not quite as shallow as the clear. And I found that they're a little bit squishy. They don't add a whole lot for comfort. And also they don't do the best for sealing for my ears. Now you may find that they fit your ears perfectly. I was able to use them, but I did prefer using the Divinis velvet tips instead. I found that the velvet tips gave me just a little bit better of a seal, were slightly more comfortable, and held the Singolo better in my ears. I didn't notice anything really acoustically different between them. The velvet was about the best alternate tip that sounded the most and closest to the stock tip, and that's the reason why I used it. All opinions of sonics, though, in this review will be done using the stock silicone black tip. So, the Singolo. I find it to be an attractive IEM. And it's got this faceplate that's kind of blue and brown, has a little bit of branding on it. I find it just to be kind of cool looking. I do believe you can get it in other colors. Has a transparent back. You can see that big 11mm dynamic. Has a very small backside, and it's smooth. It's a little bit fat, not too bad. Nice and light though. And then it has a very aggressive nozzle angle and short nozzle. Now normally I have issues with smooth backs and short nozzles. And the Singolo surprised me when it came to the fit. The Singolo, you kind of have to mash into your ears a little bit, wiggle it into place, especially with these stock tips. I found that with the Divinis velvet tips, I didn't have to mash it in quite as far, but I got it to fit in there and snug into place. Once they're in place, they don't really move around, and they're pretty comfortable. I can wear them for several hours without issues at all. After a couple of hours, that angle will start to get a little bit annoying. I'll take them out, take a little bit of a break, put them back in, and resume listening. I found that the isolation of outside noises it's all right. It's adequate. Probably blocking 50-55% of outside noises. You're going to hear louder things like coffee grinders, vacuum cleaners, loud TVs, people talking loud, cars going by, that sort of stuff. A little bit more quiet stuff around the office, things like that, it'll block out a little bit. It's going to muffle it, but these aren't the greatest. You're not going to win any awards for outside noise isolation with the Singolo. The Singolo is provided with a very nice cable, connects with 2-pin. It's extremely hard to connect. I found that it's very, very hard to disconnect and connect, so I'm not going to take it off on camera because it'll take forever to put it back on. Connects with 2-pin. Ear hooks have just enough tension, and then it's a nice thin cable that is very well behaved. And you have this cinch that doesn't really stay in place, and then it terminates to a 3.5. And I just found overall it's a very nice cable, really well behaved, and doesn't tangle or twist up on me. And I was very, very pleased with the cable. The Kiwi Ears Crinacle Singolo is rather easy to drive. I was surprised at how easy. Dongles, DAPs, desktop, it did not matter. Everything drove it with ease, and very low on volume knob. Barely had to push it, and you were getting loud. 32 ohms, 108 decibels of sensitivity, extremely easy to drive. Everything pushed it. But the Singolo did sound better when given a little bit more power. It responded well to an additional power, and it liked to be driven a little bit, and adding in some extra oomph is scaled well, and it really brought forth the bass. And I was really impressed at how well controlled the bass remained, even while it was getting a little bit extra oomph, like something coming off of the desktop, something like the FIO K19, Mytek Liberty, DAC2, the Mytek Liberty HPA, AUN, that I use, and all kinds of other products that I have in for review currently. It drove it very well, and I had no issues whatsoever getting the Singolo to sound good. Speaking of the sound, how does the Kiwi Ears Crinacle Singolo sound? So the Singolo has that Kiwi Acoustic Resonance System, or CARS, and that's affecting the bass, especially your crossover around 300 to 200 hertz or so. And I found that the Kiwi Ears Singolo actually sounds like a properly set up subwoofer. It isn't teeth-shattering, jaw-rattling, headache-inducing bass, but it's more accurately crossed over, and it fills in and enhances the bass experience. When driven properly, the bass comes alive with a very decent texture and impact. It's not the most impactful and thumpy and authoritative type of bass, but it's very well controlled. I do wish that it could have a little bit more body, and that it would have a little bit more note weight, which would add into a little bit more of a punch and a slam, and just give a little bit more of that authority to the bass. But for the price point, I find that the bass of the Singolo is very, very good, and it's going to be more than enough for the majority of listeners. The tone and timbre of the bass is nice, and it has a nice, almost natural tonality to it. And I find that the details and resolution are very good. It has, for the price point, it does a very good job of giving you all the information and then resolving it well. And as mentioned, it stays well controlled. The sub bass extends very nice, and you get some rumble and grumble, and then the mid bass has enough impact and slam, and everything just kind of keeps the toes tapping and the arms flailing if you're an air drummer. And I just find it to be a fun and engaging bass that's controlled and does enough without being over dominant or underwhelming. And then the mids of the Singolo. I find that the mids are slightly forward, and they have a nice highlight on them, and they're kind of put in this little spotlight, and you get this nice presentation of vocalists and also instruments, but yet at the same time, they're not shouty, they're not aggressive, and they're not forced upon you. They're just kind of brought into the picture a little bit better. The mids walk that line of being too much and not being enough, and when they waver, they kind of waver towards the not enough side. They have this slight boringness to them at times. which I would rather something be that way than be a little too energetic and be aggressive and shouty and fatiguing. So the mids have nice tone and timbre. Like the bass is almost natural. Every now and then some instruments will sound a little bit pushed and a little bit stretched and will kind of be a slightly artificial sounding. But for the most part, it sounds pretty accurate in the mids. Detail, retrieval, and resolution, just like the bass, are very good. Treble. The treble is tad spicy, especially up top, but it's not excessive. And I find that the treble extends nicely and there's good air, nice space, and there's a nice amount of energy without going into the fatigue mode. I find that the treble of the Singolo has enough energy, and just like the mids, it walks the line, but this time it goes a little bit leaning the other way, and that it has a little bit too much at times. But by changing tips and also adjusting your volumes and not listening as loud as you normally listen to, or putting different tips on, can help with the treble a little bit and tame it slightly. And I did find that the Divinus Velvet tips did help the treble slightly. Soundstage of the Singolo is actually nice. It's not the widest of stages, but it does a good job with its portrayal of different sizes of venues. I find that it's not going to win any awards and wow you with its vastness of size, but it's also not going to disappoint you. It's not cramped. It's not pushing in and making you claustrophobic at the same time. It's just kind of average in width, and it does enough with its imaging. Things go across the stage and you can follow them from side to side and you can place them. It's not the most pinpoint. It's more, it's in this neighborhood. It's more in this neighborhood here. The depth of the Singolo is pretty good. You can read into the stage and you can see if things are in front or behind. And it also does a good job with layering. It doesn't get all confused and muddled and jumbled and throw everything together, but it keeps things separated out and isolated. And you can pick apart a stage and go, that's there, that's there, that's there, but it's over here in this neighborhood, it's over here. Oh, they swapped and they moved around. So the stage does a good job. It's not the widest or biggest of stages, but it's not going to make you feel like, oh yeah, I'm in this really tight, cramped space. Detail retrieval is about on average for the price point. Again, it's not going to win any awards for being the most detailed of IEMs at its price, but at the same time, it's not going to disappoint. You're going to hear everything that you normally hear in this price point. You're probably not going to have a lot of moments of, oh wow, I never heard that before. Resolution is average also for the price. It does a good job with all the details that are brought out, of refining them, defining them, and keeping them in focus. At times, treble can be a little bit on the harsh side and can have a little bit too much bite and a little bit too edgy. But those moments are few and far between. I find that tone and timbre is good. As mentioned in the mids, at times some instruments can sound a little bit artificial, but I didn't find it to be off-putting or annoying. I just found it to be not the most natural sounding of IEMs. The Singolo, how does it compare to a couple other IEMs? Well, might as well stay in the Crinacle family. And so you have the 7Hz 02. I found that the 7Hz 02 is warmer, not near as detailed and resolving, and has a more impactful bass and more thump, but it's more about the quantity than the quality. The mids aren't as refined, they're not as natural sounding, and it is a little bit more spicy up top in the upper mids and in the treble regions. And then you have the TruthEar Zero Red, and I find that the Zero Red is somewhat similar to the sound of the Singolo, but is not as refined and defined. I find that the Singolo has more details and resolution than the Zero Red. Also isn't quite as spicy and aggressive in its presentation. I find that the Singolo is more smoother sounding and more pleasant sounding. Overall, the Zero Red, when putting in the 10 ohm bass adapter, will have very similar hitting bass, but without that, it will sound more laid back and not as impactful in the bass, and will sound colder and a little bit more fatiguing sounding. So the Kiwi Ears Crinacle Singolo. Overall, I find that it is a safe listen. It has a pleasantness about its presentation, and that it is appropriately priced at $80. I find that the Singolo stands out from the other Crin collabs because it isn't the most flashy, the most energetic presentation, and it is more of an average preferred presentation. Even though it sounds similar-ish to other Crin collabs, because Crin tunes a lot of his collabs to sound kind of the same, it does set itself apart. So listeners who prefer a more energetic, more dynamic, V-shaped sound signature will more than likely find the Singolo to be somewhat boring and lackluster. But if you are a listener who prefers a more neutralish and natural leaning type of sound presentation, you'll find that the Singolo adequately pleases. So yeah, I actually like the Kiwi Ears Singolo. I find it to be very pleasant sounding, and it does a very good job within its price point of being competitive. It is a safe listen, and it does enough to go, I can approve this. It might not be my first pick, but I won't be disappointed when I listen to it. It's been Dave, the Honest Audiophile. Thank you for watching, and I'll catch you in the next video. Speaking of next video, somewhere on screen, subscription links and notification bells. If you haven't already, please check those off. Don't forget to give a thumbs up or a thumbs down to the video, and check out all the links down below. There's all kinds of information regarding how you contact channel, follow channel, support channel. Speaking of supporting channel, I want to thank all my supporters through Patreon and YouTube memberships. Thank you very much for all that you provide. It is much appreciated. Also, I want to thank everybody who's given one-time gifts. That also is very much appreciated. If you're interested in supporting the channel, you can do it through one-time gifts, PayPal, Venmo, and also various options through YouTube. And if you are interested in supporting the channel through monthly subscriptions, you can do that with Patreon and YouTube memberships. With those two, you can get access early to videos and also access to my private Discord server when you support through Patreon. Along with supporting the channel, there's all kinds of other information down below, like gear recommendations, music recommendations, ranking lists, and all kinds of other things. So check out the links down below. And lastly, don't forget to enjoy the music, and that honesty is the best policy.